Have you ever looked at a childhood photo and realized that the person smiling back at you wasn't actually you? My name is Maya, and for 26 years, I lived a life that felt like a perfectly scripted movie, until last Sunday when a water leak in my mother's basement peeled back a layer of wallpaper and revealed a door that hadn't been opened since 1998. I grew up as an only child in a wealthy, quiet suburb where my parents, David and Alina, were the pillars of the community. My mom was a perfectionist who color-coded my closet and documented every milestone in leather-bound journals. But there was always this weird gap in my memory, a blackout period from when I was 4 years old. My parents told me I had a severe fever that wiped my early memories, and I believed them until I stepped through that hidden door and saw the room that time forgot. The room wasn't a cellar. It was a bedroom perfectly preserved in 90s decor with posters of cartoons I'd never watched and clothes in sizes I never wore. On the bedside table was a diary, but the name embossed on the cover wasn't Maya. It was Cassie. As I flipped through the pages, my hands began to shake so violently I dropped the book. The handwriting was childish but clear, describing a life of playing in the garden with a little sister named Maya. I felt a cold sweat break across my neck. I didn't have a sister. I've never had a sister. But as I kept reading, the entries turned dark. Cassie wrote about how Mommy is getting mad because Maya is the pretty one and Mommy says I'm the broken version. The last entry was dated November 14th, 1998, the exact day my fever supposedly started. I found a camcorder tape labeled The Choice hidden under the mattress. I ran to my old room, found a vintage player, and watched the grainy footage. It was a home movie of two little girls, twins, playing on a swing set. One was me and the other was Cassie. We were identical, except Cassie had a small, faint birthmark on her cheek. Then the camera shifted to my mother's face. She wasn't filming with love, she was filming with a terrifying, analytical intensity. I heard her voice behind the lens, whispering to my father, "We can't keep both." The neighbors are already whispering about Cassie's outbursts. If we want to maintain the image, we have to choose the one who can be molded. We choose Maya. The emotional twist hit me like a physical blow when the footage cut to a scene in the kitchen. My parents were sitting Cassie down, telling her they were going on a special trip. They led her toward that hidden door in the basement. The tape ended with the sound of a heavy bolt sliding into place. I realized then that my fever wasn't a sickness, it was a trauma-induced block. My parents hadn't sent Cassie to a boarding school or a relative. They had kept her in that room for 3 years, feeding her through a slot in the door until they finally disposed of the problem. I felt a wave of nausea as I remembered the renovations my father did in the backyard back in 2001, the year they told me we were finally moving on from our old lives. I didn't wait for them to come home. I grabbed a shovel from the garage and went to the spot under the old oak tree where my father had built a decorative stone fountain. I dug for 2 hours, fueled by a manic, terrifying energy until my blade hit something that wasn't stone or root. It was a small, rusted metal box. Inside wasn't a body, it was a collection of legal documents and a plane ticket to a specialized facility in Switzerland, dated 20 years ago. My heart leapt with a flicker of hope, but it was quickly extinguished. I called the facility using the number on the header, and the woman who answered told me that patient 402 had passed away from heart failure 6 months ago. She told me that for 20 years my parents had paid millions to keep Cassie hidden, medicated, and out of sight, all to protect the image of their perfect only daughter. The shocking ending, I didn't call the police. I realized that my parents' greatest fear wasn't prison, it was public shame. I waited for them to come home from their country club gala looking like the perfect, dignified couple. I had set up the projector in the living room, playing that 1998 home movie on a loop against the white walls. When they walked in, I didn't scream. I just handed them the bill for Cassie's funeral in Switzerland and told them I had already sent the footage and the journals to every news outlet in the state. As the flashing lights of the police cars finally pulled into the driveway, my mother didn't apologize. She just looked at my messy hair and dirt-stained clothes and said, "You were always the disappointment, Maya." Cassie would have at least stayed quiet. Today, the pillars of the community are behind bars, and I'm finally learning how to live for two people, starting by reclaiming the name I was never supposed to know.